everybody, and welcome to the Punchboard Report. My name is Blake Ryder. Today, we are looking at Parks, designed by Henry Audubon, published in 2019 by Keymaster Games. Now, Parks is kind of like an action selection worker placement sort of game where you're going to be a team of two hikers hiking along a trail and stopping along the way to pick up resources, which you're then going to use to visit national parks, and you score points for national parks you visit. It uses a similar mechanic to games like Agizia or Heaven and Ale, where you can move as many spaces as you want forward, but you can never move backwards. So once you pass a spot, you can never return to that spot with that worker. However, like I mentioned, you are a team of two hikers, so if you pass a spot with one worker, you can then go to it with your other. So let's get this set up on the table. I'll show you how it works, and we'll be back for some thoughts. But before we get into the actual gameplay, I just kind of want to show you guys how awesome the art is in this game. Each of these national parks has incredible art. Shenandoah, Carlsbad Caverns, Mesa Verde. The art in this game is just incredible. These cards are nice and big. The art is just great. Really, really nice stuff. So this is the game set up for two players, and each player is going to start with a canteen card as well as a campfire that is lit. Players are also going to get two of these endgame scoring cards in the beginning of the game, and they'll pick one to keep. Players will each also have two hikers placed at the trailhead. So like I said, this is set up for two players. First player will take this handy-dandy first player medallion, and then whoever is last in turn order will start with the camera. And then the game will begin. Now, the game is played over the course of 4 seasons, and over the course of the 4 seasons, each time you're going to basically have your hikers hike down this trail at various sites, and when they stop at a site, they will take the action associated with that site. Now, you can move either of your hikers on your turn. However, once you advance to a certain spot and take the action associated with it, that hiker can no longer move backwards, could only move forwards. So theoretically, this hiker can go to that site, but this one must continue to move forward until they reach the end of the trail. What we're trying to do over the course of the game is accumulate resources and use those to visit different national parks. So for example, Rocky Mountain National Park right over here will cost, to visit this park, will cost 2 mountain symbols, 2 sun symbols, and 2 of the water symbols, and you have those tokens over here right next to the board. So the way this game works, at the beginning of each round or season, we're going to flip one of these cards over, the top card, and that's going to give you a weather pattern for the round. So in this situation, the weather pattern is rain, sun, rain. So we're going to make that pattern across the hiking trail. So rain, sun, rain, rain, sun, rain. And over here, this is a stack of additional sites, and each round this is going to grow. So theoretically, if this was the next round, there would be one more of these in here, and then this weather pattern would extend to rain, sun, rain, and then another rain. So anyway, so you're going to make that weather pattern, and this card also will modify that season in a certain way. So for example, for this season and this season only, parks will cost 1 less water to visit. So in this situation, this one would only cost 1 water instead of 2, and it would have no effect on these 2 cards. So on a player's turn, they're going to simply, whoever is the first player will advance to whatever site they want to go to. Let's say they went there. If there is any one of these weather tokens on there, they will take it, and they will take the action associated with the space. In this situation, it would be 2 of these sun tokens, and they would add them to their personal supply. These tokens, like I said, are used to visit these sites later in the game. However, the water specifically, if you want, when you receive it, you can place it on your canteen marker, and then you can get whatever is listed on there, in this case, 2 more sun. You must do that the turn you get the water, or you cannot do it. If they added that to their supply, they could theoretically do it later if they got water either here or here. So then the purple player would go. Now the purple player can go to any site in front of them. However, if they do choose to visit the site that has another hiker on it, they can do that, but they would have to exhaust their campfire. The campfire would allow them, now this is obviously the green player's campfire, but the purple player would have one too. And then if they flip that over, now they can visit a site that another hiker already is at. And it will stay this way until one of the 2 hiker meeples of that color reaches the end of the trail. At that point, they will refresh their fire if it was exhausted, and then they could theoretically use it again. So fire needs to be used very carefully because you can use it once the first round, the first go through, and then you can refresh it only when one of your hikers reaches the end if it had already been exhausted. So turns are going to be taken back and forth, and just to go through these actions, these are simply taking the resources indicated. This one will give players a new canteen card to add to their canteen card collection, or they can take the camera from whoever has the camera, and when they do that, they also can turn in any 2 resources for a picture. Pictures are going to be worth 1 point at the end of the game, like so, and whoever has the camera can actually then purchase pictures for 1 of these resources instead of 2. So whoever has the camera will also have an added ability at the end of each round, which I will get to momentarily. So players are going to take turns going back and forth and advancing their hikers and taking actions, and eventually they will reach the end of the trail. So let's zoom in really quickly on this, and we will see what this does. So when a hiker advances to the end of the trail, they will pick one of these spots to go to and take the action associated with it. The first action, you can take one of the park cards and put it in your hand, so that way you can reserve it for later if you don't have the requisite resources to go visit there now. And if you're the first person to take this action at the end of the trail, you will also get the first player marker for next round. This one allows you to buy a gear card. Gear cards generally cost some sun, like for example, this one costs 1 sun, and parks cost 1 water less to visit. So this is an ongoing special ability, essentially. And if you are the first person to go to this spot, you will get a 1 sun discount. So the one I just showed you would be free. And if you're playing a 4-player game, 2 players get that discount. Otherwise, anyone could buy a gear card, but only the first person to take that will get the discount. The last action you can take at the end is visit a park, and here's where you would turn in your resources, and then you can get a park card. One thing to note is that your maximum number of resources in your hand at any given moment is 12, so if you're getting towards the limit, you want to make sure you visit parks and accumulate those cards so you can spend those resources rather than losing them. So eventually a hiker is going to reach that spot, and let's say this purple guy is the first one, and he goes over here. So that would allow them to reserve a park, and if they're the first ones there, they will also take that first player medallion for the next round. And then players will continue to go, then green would go, green maybe goes here, and they take one of these special ability cards, and then let's say purple goes and back and forth, and eventually there's going to be only 1 person left on the trail. When that happens, they must immediately go on their next turn to the trail and take one of those actions. So whoever is last on the trail cannot just literally clean up every single action space and then go. They have to immediately go there. So at the end of the round, everyone's going to do their actions associated with that. Some players are going to end up with these cards. Some players are going to end up taking these national park cards and then add them to their collection and then replenish them. And then that's the game. The next round, you will reignite your fire if it has been extinguished. At the end of each round, whoever has the camera is allowed to actually turn in 1 resource for a picture token, which again will be worth 1 point at the end of the game. And then the round is going to reset. We're going to move all the hikers back to the start. We are going to then flip over a new season card. So this one would go to the bottom, and then we'd have a new one. We would then put the new weather pattern. So in this situation, it would just be alternating sun, water, sun, water. You would add a water on the 3 card in parks. So theoretically, you would place water tokens there, so you would get water by visiting a park. And like I mentioned before, each subsequent round would receive 1 additional action space. And these are, they call these the more advanced actions. For example, this one allows you to visit a park while on the trail, or get one of those special ability cards as well. So that's the game. The game is going to take place, like I said, over the course of 4 rounds. And at the end of the 4 rounds, you're going to tally the number of points you have right over here per park, as well as any points from your pictures and any points that you get from the end game scoring card. Like in this one, it says if you visit 3 parks worth 4 to 5 points, you get a 2-point bonus. If you visit 5 parks worth 4 to 5 points, you would get a 3-point bonus. So unfortunately, this card actually would not apply, but this one would. And that's the game. So that is parks. Let's get into it. Obviously, the art is absolutely incredible, but let's focus first on the gameplay, then we'll get to components. Gameplay-wise, solid game. Not an amazing game, but a very, very solid and interesting game. And what makes the game interesting is the fact that you're going to shuffle up these tiles, lay them out to make your hiking trail, and it's going to be different every time, and it's going to be different every round of the game as you also add in those advanced tiles that is going to make it different every single time, every round, and every game you play. And it's really kind of figuring out the best way to hike along that trail while navigating the fact that you have opponents who are also going for the same stuff, figuring out when to use that campfire tile. Once you've used it, how quickly do you want to then get to the end of the trail so you can reignite it? And ultimately, it's an efficiency puzzle. And that's what makes the game, in my opinion, a solid game. It's not the best game I've ever played, but I would say it's a solid 7. The kind of, gameplay-wise, again, I'm talking gameplay. It's a game that I will happily play. It's a good game, interesting mechanics. I'm not necessarily going to proactively seek it out all the time, but a fun game nonetheless. Now, layer in the artwork of this game and those big tarot cards with all the illustrated national parks. So I am an avid hiker, okay? I live in Colorado for that reason. I like getting out there and hiking. Hiking to me is the yin to the yang of sitting in my basement and playing board games, okay? So for me, I don't think any game is necessarily a must-own, but for me, this is as close to a must-own as it gets. And if you're a hiker or an outdoors person, in my opinion, that's what makes this game almost a must-own, because honestly, the art is just so evocative, and it creates this mood and this vibe at the table, and everyone's happy, looking at the art and just touching these cards. In my opinion, I think that's what really puts the game over the top. I think it's almost like, you're going to want to show people when they come to your house, just show them the art and the cards and just show them the game, even if you're not going to play it. I mean, you should play it, but even if you're not, it's almost like the board game equivalent of a coffee table book. You're going to leave the cards out and just to show people and talk about it, and it's just from that standpoint, in my mind, this game for me will never leave my collection. It is a must-have for me, and I will never get rid of it. So ultimately, my assessment on this one is a very solid game. Very enjoyable, has good varied gameplay, scales very well. You add more tiles for more people, less tiles for 2. It plays well at all player counts. And then when you add in that art and those components, that's what puts it over the top for me. So if this sounded interesting to you, I recommend checking it out. Thanks again for watching, and my name is Blake Ryder.